Hey, welcome back to Emmy Award winning The People's Duchess. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's going to be kind of a brief little snippet, little catch up, little kiki. I just wanted to go over Megan's latest Instagram. And as I was looking at it, I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, could this woman do any more? It's like she does it all. She really is America's royal mom. I love her Instagram. I'm actually living for her Instagram. She is really America's mom because even if you aren't into this like very cutesy, very demure type of fanfare that she does in her kitchen, the global majority has the same kind of desire to uplift and enlighten and really just spread that brand of joy that Megan is known for. So yeah, she's like totally America's mom right now. And it's so cute. And the Instagram that she just released with her children, of course you'd call now mom. Speaking of moms, she recently put out a video where she was making, it looked like strawberry preserves with her daughter, Lilibet, in the kitchen. And I really heard Lilibet speak. I was really surprised to hear her cute little voice. I'm just going to pull up that video. We're just going to go through it and go through some of the other Instagram videos that she has released. And check where. Oh, here it is.
What do we think, Lily?
I think it's beautiful.
I can't believe how polite and respectful these children are, especially for a 3-year-old. Where's the tantrums? Where's all the crazy? Well, probably behind the scenes, no doubt. But I feel like she is really already a very classy little girl. She sounds very classy. She sounds very respectful, very demure. And I could not be more proud of the way Harry and Meghan are really taking their life into their own hands and determined to make it better for their own children. And Meghan also released a series of videos, one featuring Archie, and it's in a koi pond. And I don't know if this is in their house. Is there a koi pond in their house? I feel like there is, and I might have missed it at some point.
Yeah. Can start it.
How cute is that? Archie's always been a very mild-mannered child, and I've heard him speak from their documentary where I think they were telling him something about like manners. I can't remember the phraseology here, but they were speaking about manners, and it's just really evident that these kids have all of the manners. Megan also was featured making, it looks like a pot pie of some sort. So I really love how her and her children relate. And oh, my tab situation is just going wild right now in StreamYard. Sorry, guys. Okay, here's the right tab. But yeah, it's really cute to me how her and her children relate. You can tell that not only are they being raised to be very mild-mannered, very polite kids, but with the protection that specifically Harry did not have when he was growing up. Avid reader, hey, happy Sunday. Welcome to the chat. So glad to see you here. Hope you had a great weekend. Manners make it the man. Yes. And I'm really glad that they're teaching their children this because you don't really see a lot of like this, I guess people are calling it gentle parenting, but it's really just treating your kids like adults. You know, this is how you would treat anybody else. I think that it's really fundamentals. I mean, obviously, I'm not a parent, so I can't speak on like parenting styles and all that kind of stuff. But I do think that there's something to be said about seeing how they parent and then watching the children's disposition and making that correlation. I know that it's difficult. I'm not a parent, but I was a child at one point. I understand the difficulties of raising children, especially when you're not in the same economic situation that Harry and Meghan are. It's very frustrating, very stressful, but there's something to be said about parents that can still, uh, find that in them to be gentle and kind no matter what life dishes them. And Harry and Meghan in particular, they've gone through so much, but they still find it in them to be kind people, not only to each other and to other people, but to their children, which is really something special to see. People are broken. I think with the pandy and everything that we've just experienced in the last several years, people are just really at a tough time in their lives. All people want to do is leave horrifying comments, make horrifying videos, just get out all of that negativity and nastiness that they're feeling in their own lives online. So it's important and it's really impressive that Harry and Meghan are unbroken by the recent events in their lives, and then also dealing with everything and all of the loss and the pain that's come with the pandemic and losing a lot of people personally in their lives. Meghan in particular, she's gone through it. She's gone through the ringer. So they were in New York and speaking at a parent summit for Archwell through the Parents Network, and they had this installation up there where it had the screenshot, like the screensaver picture of all of the children who have lost their lives through self harm and after being bullied on social media. They're not only doing this to protect themselves after Meghan was trolled really heavily back there. They're doing this to protect everyone, everyone's kids, everyone's families. Meghan said that the danger of social media was a global issue and said that one thing we can all agree on is that children should be safe. And she also praised the parents who were speaking out. I think in many ways, what we see through these parents is the hope and the promise of something better because they just want to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else again. And I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. When you're talking about kids who are in the type of status that Archie and Lilibet are, it's really important to be able to protect them, but also really important for them to be able to have like that normalcy in life. Right. So Meghan was talking to people and she said that when your children get to a certain age, when you're not just playing in the sandbox with them, but almost playing in your own sandbox again, it's super joyful as a woman, a mom, and a wife to be able to find yourself again in a way that was always present, but that you maybe couldn't put as much attention on you know as you now can when your kids are a little bit older. It's a wonderful feeling. Welcome to the chat, Connie Bomber. Happy Sunday. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. So when she speaks to her kids getting to a certain age and getting to relive that childhood, I couldn't agree more. I have nieces, I have nephews, and playing with them is like getting to revert back to those really happy days and just kind of frolicking around. And in their case, they have this beautiful garden and this beautiful landscape and dogs. So creating that amazing core memory for them, creating these core memories where they're feeding koi fish and making preserves, it's really important. And Meghan also spoke to those core memories with her mom. Also speaking to people, she said, even before I was a mom, I loved being able to nurture in that way. Some of my favorite childhood moments are the meals that my mom would make. She'd make a lot of soul food. I remember she'd taken a Thai cooking class. So every week we had Thai barbecue chicken and spring rolls. I remember those flavors so well. And I want my kids to have these same formative memories of things that I cook. We call them mama meals. And those are the ones that I hope they come back to when they're older, when they're married, and when they have their own kids and they go, oh, let's have a mama meal. And it's the same roast chicken I've been making since they were little. Yes, that roast chicken, man. I promise you. Megan, just drop the recipe, girl. Just drop the recipe. All of us call it the engagement chicken because of the fact that she was they got engaged. But I think that that roast chicken is really what got him to want to propose in the first place. Probably the first time he tasted that chicken, he was like, "Yeah, yeah, this is. I could get used to this." So Megan, if you're listening, princess, please drop the roasted chicken recipe in season 2. We need that engagement chicken recipe. Hey, cookies and cream. Welcome to the chat. Happy Sunday. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. Um, yeah, avid reader, or sorry, Connie Bomber. I'm really happy that she's happy. I am so happy. This is great. It's like, first of all, can we talk about this view? Can we first get into this view? I mean, hello. Absolutely stunning. Look at those mountains. Ugh, California. Sometimes I really miss that. Um, yeah, avid reader. She deserves happiness and peace, 100%. And what else is this if not happiness? This is paradise. You've got your cocktails, you've got your one pot spaghetti, you've got your mountain range. Like, what else do you need? But again, I think that the core memories that she's talking about here is what's really important. Cookies and cream. Harry loves that seasoned food. He ain't never leaving. I just love it. They're the perfect couple. Couple goals indeed. Couple goals indeed. You know, I think about this often about how like the food over there must have been. And even though they had like chefs and things like that, I've seen so many cooking shows where they're just putting together nonsense. And I'm going to say something very controversial right now. Is this a safe space? Can I say this safely here, chat? I'm just gonna say it. I don't think Gordon Ramsay can cook. There, I said it. I said it. Okay, his meals look gross, and perhaps my North American palate just doesn't quite understand. Connie Bomber, Harry is in for keeps. He found a gold mine in Megan. Extremely rare to find someone as beautiful as her, as successful as her, as down to earth as her, with that humanitarian piece in there, who enjoys helping people while showing Daniel Martin how to make a single skillet spaghetti. The recipe calls a recipe she calls a family favorite. Her pal and makeup artist said, you've always shown your love through food." Megan replied, "It's a big love language." She shares the same sentiment in episode 6, titled "The Juice is Worth the Squeeze," saying, "I love feeding people. It's probably my love language." So it's very evident that feeding people and nurturing people and caring about people is how Megan shows her love. Beverly Hardy, thank you for joining the chat. Happy Sunday. The koi pond is around the Asia Tea House. Asia Tea House. What's that? Did I miss something? I might have missed something. What's the Asia Tea House? Oh, okay, but yeah, that's a lovely koi pond. And I'm glad that Archie has that core memory now. um, Connie Bomber, the People's Duchess, I heard this from a British woman that their food doesn't taste. She moved here. Look, again, not to be rude, I'm not downing British cuisine. I'm not saying that Gordon Ramsay doesn't deserve the accolade or anything, but in my opinion, when you're combining things and there's no paprika, there's no garlic powder, there's no fresh garlic, there's no onions, there's onions, but there's no like combination of like seasoning that I see works. Everything is just bland. There's salt, there's pepper, and then they add things how is that going to season the food? You're adding like leeks and stuff. You're adding watercress. Where's the flavor? Is all I'm saying. Where's the flavor? I think that it's really nice that we have this version of her that is so lovable and so loving, and that her children get this version of her versus the version of her that she would have become had she stayed and had she survived. Because when she spoke about unaliving, I mean, yeah, she might have just gone ahead and did it. So we might not even have her here. I mean, as sorry to sound dark, but that's where she was. And everyone knows, I mean, if you've ever struggled through that, it doesn't just go away, especially if the environment doesn't get better. We might not have even had Megan to be talking about today. And if we did, it would not be this version of her. Paul, Paul Charles, thank you so much for joining us. Happy Sunday. Thank you so much. Love your podcast. Keep up the wonderful content. Hello to all my fellow Sussex squatties. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate that. Yeah, avid reader. Megan said it's not enough to survive. You have to thrive. It's not enough to just show up and hope that you don't get crucified that day, which was what Megan was going through. She would be showing up, and everywhere she went, it would be crucifixion over one small detail or the other. Oh, her hair is in a messy bun. Oh, she's messy. That means she's messy, you know? Oh, her hair is in a really clean bun. Oh, she's paying too much attention to herself. She's a narcissist. Like it was just crucifixion for crucifixion's sake, just for any old thing. So it's not enough to survive that every day. Connie Bomber, that family exposed itself, plus royalists, how much they hate Meghan and the world is watching them. I agree. I agree. And the one thing I would say is that, in my opinion, what they've really exposed is the fact that they hate themselves. It's not about Meghan, in my opinion. It's not as much about her as it is about them. They hate her because they hate themselves. They hate her because they are not her. They feel disappointed with themselves. Why can't I show up like this? Why can't I look like this? Why can't I talk like this? Why can't I dress like this? Why can't my life be this life? A lot of people have made terrible, terrible mistakes in their lives. I mean, we all have made mistakes that we, in hindsight would change one or two details about. And I think that a lot of people look at Meghan and they don't see mistakes in her life. They can't point to something that she did that was an obvious screw up. They can't point to anything in her life that signals that she makes poor choices or that she made a poor choice and it's embarrassing and the world is watching that and looking at you and laughing. A lot of us have those mistakes, whether it's a public tweet or something that we did when we were a little bit one too many, or dated the wrong guy and the guy turned out to be totally embarrassing. Like, whatever the case might be, I think the hate comes from the fact that they can't say that about her. They want so badly to be like, well, you were on drugs or whatever, but they can't. So that's, to me, why the hate is there like that. They just can't get over the fact that they think she's perfect. Period. Paul Charles, I didn't know how Harry and Meghan got fish. Now that is cool. Yeah, I'm like, wait, where did the koi pond come in from? Someone said earlier that it was from Asia House, which I've never heard of. So who said that in the beginning? I think Beverly said that, right? Yeah, I don't know what Asia House is, but it's really cool. Connie Bomber, I'm okay with Meghan never going back there no matter what happens over there. Dude, I'm telling you, I don't know anything about anything. I don't know what's going on with them. I hear snippets of them when I'm watching, other squatty channels that I love to watch. Otherwise, I'm not Googling the royals. I literally could not care less what they got going on over there. It's just not important to me. I behave how they should behave. As far as they keep saying that they don't care. Chris Ship has been on that Wednesday briefing for the last 5 years. Joseph Burno, hello. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the chat and thank you for joining us. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend, hun. Paul Charles, the royal family don't have power in the US and they're angry. I do think that there's a lot of truth to that. I think that that's accurate in that we've seen how they behave when they come to the US, And it's evident that they would like to have a presence in North America. It started, I think, with the Canadian tour that they did back in 2012. And it was a disaster, to put it mildly. It was a disaster. The same First Nations chief that honored Harry and Meghan gave them sacred blankets, gave them sacred medallions, welcomed them with open arms. That beautiful display of community that they had with them when we saw them in Whistler in the last Invictus Games was not reciprocated when Bill and Kathy went over there in 2012. So much so that the same First Nations tribes all banded together and said, don't you come back here no more. Do not come back here. We do not want to see you. This was very performative. And I can only surmise that they did that because it was pretty evident to them that they didn't care. They were just there to flex their colonialism and, we're your future king and queen, revere us type situation. And the First Nations did not appreciate that. So it was a very different welcoming, very different reception from the two couples. And then it bled into more recent times. So when they went to like the 9/11 memorial, and I don't know, for whatever reason, Kathy decided to don that very bright, vivid pink coat, which I I guess you could look at that and say, well, it's just a coat, it's not a big deal, but everyone who goes to that memorial wears black. And in the royal family, whenever they're doing their what is it called where they lay the wreaths? I forget the name of that thing where they lay the wreaths, but they dress in black. Whenever they're doing a memorial of something, they dress in black. So it's not like she didn't have protocol. It's not like she didn't know that she was supposed to wear black. And then you come into more recent times and William going to the UN and being kind of ignored at the UN really tells you everything. And again, if you look at the parallels, right? So he also went to that fire station, I think it was like Station 52 or something like that, where they sat in this really cramped room and just got these photo ops. But Harry's reception, when he went, they gave him a shirt. They were all buddied up with him. There were smiles everywhere. There were laughs everywhere. There was a lot of um, camaraderie versus William's visit, where there was no such thing. They did not do that. It was just a lot of, here you go, take this picture, get out. Barbara Long, welcome to the chat. Happy Sunday. The problem with the royal family is that after Queen Elizabeth died, it really exposed how irrelevant the royal family are. I couldn't agree more. I mean, we see it with Charles, how he wants everyone to see him as this, big king. And I can only imagine the disappointment when he learned in real time as they were hucking those eggs at him and booing him in Colchester, booing him loudly. The first video I ever did on this channel was Colchester Blues, the bad, the worst, and the monarchy. I'll pin it in the chat, or I'll pin it in the description after the video, where they booed him so loudly. And this was way back before the Republic really started becoming visible. These were just regular people in the crowd. This wasn't a Republic demonstration. This wasn't anything of the sort. It was just Charles and Camilla walking into a place and the people there giving them a very terrible reception. Avid reader, agreed, Barbara. Queen Elizabeth worked so hard. The current RF hardly work. Absolutely. Paul Charles HWY. Oh, I don't know that. How guys that William bought his awards that he didn't earn, like the British awards. Forgive me, I forgot the name. Oh yeah, the BAFTAs. He won a BAFTA for. Sorry, just okay. Pull it together. So he won. I'm sorry. They gave him I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay, I promise you I'll pull it together. Okay, so they gave William a BAFTA for his Earthshot documentary. It was like the best documentary BAFTA. And notice the timing. William had never won an award for anything before that, and this Earthshot been going on. Harry and Meghan get to winning awards based on their own valor and bravery, and now William gets a BAFTA. A BAFTA? How did he swing that? Other than being the president of the BAFTAs. Barbara Long, that is if William becomes king, because Queen Elizabeth wanted Harry and Meghan over the royal family, and this is why she didn't put King Charles on the throne. I think that Elizabeth held on as long as she did, absolutely, because she knows that her idiot son wasn't going to do a very good job. She knows that people didn't like Charles. So yeah, it was so funny to me that William won that award. I just can't get over it. Just obvious and evident. And unlike them, Harry and Meghan are so genuine in their passions and so genuine in their purpose and the things that they do. It's hard not to take notice of that. For example, the showrunner, the director of her show With Love, Meghan, had this to say: her cooking is pretty spot on. She's not a chef, and it's definitely not meant to make it seem like she is, but there's just a love of cooking that is palpable. For me, imperfection is a wonderful thing. It was fun watching her trying to get used to the kitchen because it's not her place. So we didn't hide that fact. And she's kind of walking and looking for things. I really wanted to embrace and celebrate all the mistakes and the mess and all that good stuff. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that the royal family just doesn't understand about people, real people. This Michael Steed guy is a normal human being. He's a director of a show and produces shows for Netflix, sure, but he goes home at the end of the day to a regular family, regular children. I'm assuming, I don't know his life, but let's just say for the purpose of this, he just goes home and lives a normal life, right? And the royals don't understand that people are not perfect. There's no reason to be out here attempting to give people the impression that you are perfect, that you are without fault or flaw. Joseph Burno, the so-called royal family have been relegated to minor bit players. Yeah. I mean, at least in my world, I don't pay them no mind. I don't give a darn. I don't care what's all going on. Avid reader, the hard truth for William is that Harry is the better man. The royal family knows it, the UK knows it, we always knew it, and everyone knows that it's tough but karma. Yeah, yeah. I mean, what do they have to offer? After you've gone through something as scandalous as they've gone through, after the whole world watched you put this woman of color down day after day after day for no reason whatsoever, how do you feel like just you're going to bounce back from that by taking a bunch of pictures with as many Black people as you can find? And I fear that this is what they're teaching those kids, and this is why it's really important to have like as much normalcy as you can with the royal children, and try to instill better values than that with the royal children. Like here, where Meghan was talking about she was excited to get home to Archie because he was about to lose a tooth, and she wanted to be home in time for that. That's the kind of stuff that normal people, you know, deal with and go through, and makes her so relatable and down to earth. So I think it's just really important because, again, it's one thing to be nasty and show up like that in the world, but your children are also watching. the kids are also watching. And yeah, Harry used to be provoked into sticking out his tongue and everything, but I think that what we've seen from the recent batch of royal children, kind of the tantrums and stuff that we've seen, is something else. There's something else there. There's something to, your mom trying to quiet you down, and you've got your hand all in her face, you're sticking your tongue out at her, you're all, crashing out on her specifically. So again, I'm not trying to I'd never broach on people's children or anything like that, but I'm just saying that in the case of this episode where we're talking about parenting and how people relate to Megan's style of parenting, I think it's really important to just kind of highlight that if you are a child in the royal family, it's difficult because of the way that the royals themselves behave. It's difficult, and I don't see how the kids wouldn't see their parents doing these things and not want to do it themselves. Children are like sponges. They soak up their environment. So it's really important to try and be better, if not for you or the people around you, at least for your children who are seeing this. Paul, the British press and the royal family and some British people realized they had made a mistake running Harry and Meghan out of the country. I'm glad they're here in the US. Yeah, I think that that's also a big part of what we're seeing right now. There's a lot of buyer's remorse. The buyer's remorse in a lot of the people I see now, though, they're like, oh man, we put our eggs in the wrong basket. When Meghan says things like, oh, I'm the happiest I've ever been, and this is our life now, and it's so great. She gets to spend these cozy weekends, as she put it. Where is that? Cozy family weekends. They don't get to do that. And I think that another thing is that the resistance to her and Harry having left, the vitriol over her and Harry having left, is also very deliberate in that they don't want anyone else getting these ideas. They have to perpetuate the monarchy by all means. So if people keep leaving the monarchy, there will be no monarchy. If the royal kids right now look at this and say, well, I would much rather just live in an enclave and have a nice life away from all of this. I mean, yeah, being a royal is nice, but I don't want to do that. I don't want the public and the press scrutinizing my every move. It makes me think of Beatrice and Eugenie when they were kids and the press dogged them out so bad because they were a little bit thicker, they were a little bit heavier in their childhoods, and the press said the cruelest, meanest, nastiest. I mean, these were children, and they were talking about their bodies, they were talking about their looks, they were going in on children. So I think that if Beatrice and Eugenie had a choice in any of that, they would probably opt out. And back then they really didn't, because this was prior to Diana having left and everything. So they didn't have a choice. There wasn't much of a precedent for royal women leaving and making it out on their own. They didn't really have the option to do that, and they just had to sit there and grin and bear it. Doris, welcome to the chat. Happy Sunday. Hope you're doing well, hun. Of course, there's regret. You can see that in the Rhoda and others in the media. M's Insta is a constant reminder. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is their worst nightmare. Cozy family weekends. They probably see this as a personal attack on themselves. Like, how dare she have cozy family weekends when she's not a royal, paid by our taxes, and that allows us to abuse her. Like, they're so mad that she gets to put out all of the news and they don't have the access to it first to spin it negatively or say something else wrong. But more than anything, they're looking at this and going, God, what if other kids think this? What if the royal kids right now? Imagine the quote unquote constitutional crisis that would happen if what's the little boy name? George. His name is George, right? If George were to say, no, thank you. No, thank you. I don't want that. George, who's supposed to be the next king after his dad, if he said no, there'd be a problem. There'd be a whole problem. If Charlotte said, no, thank you, I don't want to do this, there would be a whole problem. She, I think in particular, would be probably a bigger problem because Charlotte is, they're poising her to be like the influencer of the family. They're already talking about how influential her clothing choices are and yada yada. So I think that there's a lot of hope there that Charlotte can be as big as Meghan because they know that her mom is not. Like they know that Kate isn't as like big as she should be or anything just based on her shortcomings. She's just not that girl. But they're hoping that Charlotte can be the it girl in the royal family. They're hoping that she can be the next, you know, big deal, the next Amelia Windsor, the next Kitty Spencer, the next model type of, you know, fashion girly that can bring a lot of eyes and attention onto the royals. And if she were to say, no, thank you, I would love to just do my own thing over here, that would probably be a big, big, big problem for them. Instead of just to extend that real olive branch and get in on some of this goodness, they're still choosing to be petty and vindictive. And I don't see it working out for them. I think the longer this goes on, the less and less interested people are in the royal family, the more regretful they feel about having cast Meghan out or having had a part in that. Then the papers, the fail in them, they can write all the articles they want. People are now able to think for themselves. Connie, that's too much pressure for a kid. You see the articles and they're already calling Charlotte all kinds of, you know, very adult adjectives, beautiful and, you know, charming and all this other stuff. They're ascribing to her all of these like already hurry up and grow up so we can extract the money out of you. Hurry up and get your own personality and do things for yourself so that we can write more articles and you can talk to us and we can publish those articles and extract as much out of you as we possibly can. They can't wait for Charlotte to grow up. Yeah, George is the next king of England after his father, but they can't wait for Charlotte to grow up. And there's probably a lot of very inappropriate reasons for that as well. Connie, it's sad to be king and not have your sibling there. I mean, you can't even keep your own sibling in the monarchy, but you want other countries to look at you as a leader. Make that make sense. Cookies and cream, when Archie and Lily grow up, how could that ungodly family ever explain how they mistreated them as well as their parents? All I know is the fact that they wanted to change that convention to discriminate against Archie before he was even born tells me everything I needed to know. Period. And they're never going to explain. You're absolutely right, avid reader. They're never going to explain because when it comes to matters that point a mirror to them, when it comes to things that they could learn from as mistakes, they're unwilling to do any of that because they need to maintain this image that they're perfect. And again, I don't know why they think that's the better option. I don't know why they think that people want to see perfection from them. They're human. Well, I guess that's debatable. I guess it's been debatable whether they're human or not. But the fact of the matter is, they're here amongst us human beings, and none of us have ever lived a life perfectly. None of us are perfect. So the fact that they want to seem perfect is their downfall. They won't just let things go. They won't just live their normal lives so that people can see that they're human and relate to them a little bit better. I don't know why they want us to think that they are so stiff upper lip that they don't have any of these problems that the rest of us have. The way that they tried to downplay Harry's mental health after losing his mother was wild to me. It's wild to think that you're not going to have some mental health struggles after losing your mom. And not to take up for Kathy or anything, but she has to be going through some mental health struggles after being outed as a racist. Yeah, you brought it upon yourself, but you can't tell me that that woman isn't struggling with her mental health over the embarrassment and the nasty comments that she's received. Again, rightfully so. Rightfully so. You've done that to yourself, but it's still the fact of the matter. You're still being hounded every day. You're still being called out your name. You look online and people are calling you all every which name but your God-given name. And that hurts. And I don't know why they want us to think that she's not hurting for the self-inflicted gunshot wound that she shot herself in the foot with. That hurts. It's a human emotion. And it would have been really nice for her children to see their mom taking care of herself. It would have been really nice to see, as a person, if you're a person that likes this royal family and likes Kate, it would have been really lovely to see her saying, you know what, I'm having a bit of a tough time, a bit of a tough go of it. I'm going to reevaluate things. I'm going to take care of myself. That would have been more helpful than getting up there and chop salading your way through some statement about something else that had nothing to do with what you were talking about or going through. LS Lee, welcome to the chat. Happy Sunday. William is not a leader. He couldn't lead people out of a paper bag. I wouldn't follow him out of a burning building. Oh my gosh. He's the epitome of don't follow me. I don't know where I'm going. William is unfortunately born into a family that expects him to be something that he is not, that he has never been, and that he could never be. And that's kind of the duality with, being born into the role, inheriting that role. On the one hand, it's not fair that he gets to inherit that job and no one else gets to inherit their job. You usually have to earn your job and prove that you have the skills required to do said job. But on the other hand, he's being thrust into a position that he knows darn well he can't do. And that's going to be a very interesting thing to see. It'll be very interesting to see how the palace tries to spin him and spin his wife into these regal king and queen figures when we've all watched them be anything but. I don't know. It's just, again, for me, it all comes back to the children. Forget about the adults for a minute, but think about the children. Think about what they have to deal with and go through. And I don't think that Kate's children deserve to see the nastiness. I don't think that they deserve to receive any of that nastiness. They're children. They haven't done anything wrong. So that's why I think that it's a better idea that she would have just been honest about what she was going through, because that's admirable. It would have really shown her kids that everyone deals with struggles and you can handle them well too. Hey, Carmen, happy Sunday. Welcome to the chat. Hope you're having a good one. But yeah, again, I tiptoe around and I'm very careful on this subject because it's important not to drag children into these conversations, especially when we're talking about negativity and vitriol. But I think, just neutrally speaking here, the kids deserve better. They really do deserve better. They deserve encouragement. They deserve protection. They deserve happiness. Connie Bomber, we are so thankful to God that Meghan is alive. She and Harry made the best choice choosing their own doctor when Archie was to be born. Absolutely. If you have any wits about you, if you're a smart royal at all, what you're doing right now is devising your exit strategy. Up and coming royals, they will always have money. They probably have trust funds and inheritances from the day they were born. So money aside, Why wouldn't you want to just live a life that is true to yourself and not something that you were born into? Look at William. He doesn't like any of this. He's not good at any of it. He hates all the Commonwealth. He does not like Black people. He has to be around them. Like, he hates it. Why not just live a life surrounded by the people you want to be surrounded by? Same thing with Kate, you know? In another life, had she had a bit more of a backbone, she would have just been a luxury stay-at-home mom and not had to do all these speeches and stuff to compete with Meghan. So the royal kids now, they're probably looking at this going, well, you know, I'm gonna just take my millions and do what I need to do. Yeah, it'll be hard. It'll be difficult because there will be resistance and opposition to that. But the alternative is to live a life that's not worth it, that you're just miserable in every day. William, they're miserable. You got to be around Black people. You got to travel to countries and immerse yourself in the cultures as a racist. That is like the worst nightmare. And they have to continue to do it to keep up appearances. And I can only imagine how much that sucks. Laris, I think Charles will be the last king. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I hope to see the downfall of the monarchy in my lifetime. And that's not to be facetious. That's not to be vindictive. That's not saying that I hope they are personally harmed. I hope that the structure of a monarchy that tells people I'm better than you, God said so, I hope that is done away with in my lifetime. I hope that people realize that we're all just surviving here on this rock, hurling itself through the galaxy. At some point, I just hope that people wake up and say, you know what? I'm not going to pay these people anymore. They're not doing anything for me. I'm just going to go ahead and do my own thing. So much so that it becomes the law, that the monarchy is abolished. And the royals can still have their place in society. Again, I'm not advocating for them to be harmed or anything or done away with or anything. I hope they thrive outside of the monarchy, but I hope the monarchy itself and the ideology itself, that colonial mindset of God told me I can colonize you and that I'm better than you, and this is all God sent and ordained. I hope that that is done away with in my lifetime because it's so harmful. It's so detrimental. It makes no sense. No one has ever reaped the benefit. And as it's being used today, it's just completely irrelevant. The monarchy, for what reason? How do these people signify unity and community when the future king's own brother had to leave because he was so horrible to him and his wife? And that's not just a recent phenomena. William has been terrible to Harry since they were kids. There's some videos out there where William is actively being terrible to not just Harry, but also his father. And I mean, kids are kids, so that's expected. But there was something particularly sinister about the way William was just really nasty to Harry and his dad. And as he grew, the nastiness also grew. So predating Meghan and that family, William himself has just always been a particularly nasty person. And I don't see how he can get on the throne and unify anything or anyone. Paul, I agree with you. But yeah, unfortunately, this is where we're at. We're here because Harry and Meghan are doing the right things. Harry and Meghan are creating their, what they said, happy bubble. They are raising children who are mindful and respectful. And like it or not, Meghan is America's mom. She's taking care of her kids. She's taking care of your kids. She's trying to advocate for your kids. She's trying to keep your kids safe as well as her children. She's doing everything she can in her power. Her and her husband both are doing everything they can in their power to keep not only their children safe, but everybody's children safe. And that is the part that deserves all the recognition in the world. In this article, they were talking about hosting a little camp for winter break. And Megan said, we had several days with different families at our home, and we were able to get to know the parents better, and all the kids could play. Megan and Harry set up obstacle courses and face painting. It's a dream, she added. But I also know that being part of a community means you put effort into it. Being part of a community. She's very much selfless in that way. And this is another thing that I think the royals just don't understand. It's not about the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth are former slave colonies. They are not there by their own volition. They're there as codependent to you. They're there because you're extracting things from them and they have no choice but to be paying you. You were paying the descendants of former enslavers over the loss of their slaves up until 2015. So you can say that you are part of the Commonwealth and that the Commonwealth is part of you, but the fact of the matter is your actions speak differently. You, specifically the UK, the UK Parliament and Treasury were paying the descendants of enslavers for the loss of their slaves as property up until 2015. So tell me how that's community with the Commonwealth. Tell me in what way community with the Commonwealth. Tell me how that's voluntary community that they have to be associated with you. Because they love to make it seem like the Commonwealth is happy to have them. They're not happy to have you. You guys are, you have, again, codependency is what it really is. But I mean, they can't even travel freely to the UK. They can't even travel freely. People in Nigeria, in African countries, they need visas. They need a lot of requirements to go to the UK. But in the UK, members of the UK, people living in the UK can move around freely, do that Guajo situation. They have access to everything. So if you were really in community with the Commonwealth, why is it darn near impossible for Commonwealth countries to travel to the UK? But within the UK, you guys can all travel freely. So actions speak a lot louder than words. And I think that in a lot of ways, Prince Harry and Meghan's actions are what really terrify the royal family. The fact that they are in community and in such good community and have such good standing in their communities is what really terrifies the royal family. And again, because they don't want anyone else going out and seeing this for themselves and experiencing this for themselves. They want to make it seem like royal life and royal duty is the only life that they should live or aspire to live. And I don't know, there's no incentive anymore. There's just, what's the point? If you're a royal child growing up now, what's the incentive? Again, money aside, you're gonna have the money. Anywhere you go, you're gonna have the money. I don't know. I think that's kind of like an oxymoron, pretty much. It's just really dumb to say that you're gonna have a good royal life. You're gonna be doing well as a member of the royal family. That's just not possible. Given all that we've seen, I don't think that that's possible at all. Cookies and cream. They don't like the fact that Meghan said she is the happiest she's ever been. It totally debunks their asinine narrative that the Sussex's marriage is in trouble. Again, projection. Everything that they write now is just projection. Paul, the late queen, told Charles and William to keep Harry and Meghan's security, and behind her back, they took it away from them. Absolutely. And that's just goes to confirm how vindictive they are. You know, when you have orders from the late queen and she was still very much alive at the time that you just choose to ignore because you're so angry, because you are so angry at the fact that they finally broken out of your grasp. That is narcissism on a level that I was even shocked at. I was like, oh, but then again, Queen Elizabeth was quite elderly at the time and likely in pretty poor health. So they felt like her power was diminished, like her power to really like do something to them as a consequence of betraying her and her instruction. They felt like she's too elderly and doesn't have enough wherewithal to actually punish us for this. So we'll just take our chances, because they were that angry that they had let these two slip through their grasp. And that just tells you everything, because if you hate them so much, why you want them back so much? Why you want them back so much? If you don't like them, if they're not good for the monarchy, if Meghan was no good for anything, yada, yada, why is it that you demand them to come back? Every other article is a pathway back. Back to what? Back to what? Back for who? For what reason? Like, why would they do that? It just doesn't even make any sense. And I put together all that I can to try to piece things together and make it make sense, but it never will make sense. There's no need to try and make it make sense, because at the end of the day, racism is so irrational. You'd rather harm yourself just so some of that can spill over onto the subject of your hate. You'd rather hurt your own monarchy, hurt your brand, let people see you behave a fool. You'd rather do all that because you cannot stand the sight of a person of color proving to be better than you. And that's like the irrationality of racism. It doesn't make any sense. Instead of helping yourself and doing something for yourself, which would have been to embrace Meghan, you said, no, I don't want that. And that doesn't make any sense at all to me. It never will. Barbara, you're so right. Charles removed Queen Elizabeth from the throne before she died. He did. He did in every way, but on paper. He diminished her so much. He ignored her. He just kind of, I mean, you could tell too, like years before she passed, there was a lot of articles coming out about how Charles is chomping at the bit. Charles has been waiting to be king, and this is why he was so disappointed with how people were reacting to him, because he was so waiting for that position. He was waiting. We know that he didn't care for his mother. We know that from that Dimbleby book. He published a book telling everybody how much he did not care for his mother or his father. He thought them cold. He thought them distant. He told the story about how they came back from like a 6-week tour and shook his hand, showed him no love. He resented that. If that's a core memory for you, you resent that till today. You resent the fact that your parents came home and instead of showing you any iota of love, they shook your hand like a stranger. So Charles recalling that story tells you how bitter he is towards his parents. So several years of Elizabeth's reign, you could tell that he was just salivating, chomping at the bit, waiting. And I think a part of that was also because he wanted to see Camilla on the throne. He wanted to fulfill that "you're going to be my queen" fantasy that he sold her. So he was really waiting for kingship. And yeah, he diminished Elizabeth, I think, as much as possible. And there were probably several things that he started overriding, and this was one of them. Their security that she said that they should have, publicly said that they should have. He said, nope, I don't care about that woman. He does not care for his mother. He never cared for his mother. He has always had resentment towards her. And I'm not surprised that he did that. Avid reader, America is learning that lesson in real time. Yes, 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 yes. And, I think this is why Meghan is America's mom. She's seen as this lovely American woman that we all embrace and want to protect. We've all watched her go through horrific times in the royal family. And now that her children are getting a little bit older, we're kind of closing in a little bit more, right? We're kind of circling in a little bit more around them to protect them. And again, when you're talking about Harry and Meghan, you have to talk about that community. They are in such good community with not just each other, but their actual communities around them. And it's really admirable, super admirable, that they have things like the Parents Network, and they do things via Archwell to reach out to those parents. All of those parents appreciate that. I mean, who else saw that march to the Meta office? They marched up to the Meta office, the Facebook office, in protest, because Facebook has a lot to do with some of the really horrifying things that children experience online. Not just children, actually, everybody. Facebook has turned into, I haven't had Facebook since 2010, so I don't really know. And even before that, I had Facebook from like 2008 to 2010. I could only stomach so much of that Facebook thing. It was so bad. And I can't imagine what it's like now. I have no idea. I don't even source information from Facebook. Sometimes I still source information from Twitter. I don't have a Twitter anymore. I got rid of my Twitter when everything went down, but sometimes I still source my information from tweets that'll pop up on other social media sites, like Instagram, for example. And I understand that Instagram is also a Meta company, but it's more geared towards just, you can curate your experience, right? So I like all the fancy stuff on Instagram. I like all the influencer stuff on Instagram. I love like the Jackie Ina, the Akila Rashfords, all those types of people I follow on Instagram. But every now and again, tweets will pop up on Instagram that are funny, and then I'll go back to the tweet and look at it and look at the comments and stuff like that. But Facebook, I will not at all. It's so gross. Even a minute on Facebook, I feel like takes away a year of your life. Like minute equals a year. It's just nonsense. So the parents and the communities marched up to the Meta offices in protest of some of their policies that allow for the kind of viciousness that you see online. And not just viciousness, right? Because there are terms and conditions that are designed to keep every community safe. And Facebook purports to have them. But when you go online, everything is allowed on Facebook. Everything. Every slur you can imagine, every horrifying nonsense you can imagine is on Facebook. And Harry and Meghan, I think, are very commendable for challenging themselves to shift the narrative and imploring, is that the word? Imploring Facebook to do better. Paul William thinks he's a global statesman. He knows, and everyone know he is not. And that well, look, all I can say is if you have to tell people that you're XYZ, you are decidedly not XYZ. If you have to tell people you're a good guy, you are not a good guy. If you have to tell people that you're harmless, you're not harmless. If you have to tell people you're a global statesman, you're not a global statesman. Like, why would you have to say that? Why would you have to tell your newspapers and drop that into the chat that you are a so-and-so? Shouldn't people just be able to see that you are a so and so? I just don't think that's really working out for you, William. And I don't think that, again, to be fair, I don't think that he should have to be just because he was born into this role. His misfortune is not having a backbone because of this whole, like, he has seen the constitutional crisis that arises when a king in waiting or a current king abdicates the throne. So he's terrified. He wants the power, he wants the respect, he wants all of those things, but what he doesn't want is the work. He doesn't want to do the work, he doesn't want to be around the Black people. He's trying to figure out how he can get rid of the Commonwealth element of the throne. He does not want to be anything, he doesn't want anything to do with that. He can't just relinquish that because the Commonwealth, those formerly colonized people, are a massive part of the wealth that they extract. They have to have that because who else are they going to exploit if not the Black and brown folks? They can't exploit France or Italy or their neighbors. They can't. All they can do is exploit the Commonwealth. So they have to have the Commonwealth. And William hates that aspect of his job. But yeah, if you can't even keep your own brother in line, I don't know how you could call yourself a statesman of any kind. Forget about global. You can't even keep your home together. You can't even keep your own country together. Like, where, on what stage are you supposed to be a global citizen? You know, Paul, it's funny how all the faces of the royal family miserable are included. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like maybe if the royal family, if the monarchy did come to an end, I feel like they would probably be better off. They're terrified of that because they don't want to relinquish the power, but I think that they would find the monkey lifted off of their backs if that were to happen. I think that they're afraid of the unknown and they're not willing to relinquish something that they've grown up in and that they're used to all their lives. But I also think that if it did come to pass, the morning after the abolishment of the monarchy would probably be the best sleep, the best, sunniest, brightest morning, the best tasting food, the best cup of coffee. Like, everything would probably be so much better for them if they didn't have the burden of pretending they're better than everybody hanging over them like that. That burden of you have to be perfect and yada yada, the monarchy, yada yada. I think that they would find themselves in such a better position mentally and physically, probably too, because stress does a number, not just on your mentality, but on your appearance, on your body. It deteriorates you a lot quicker. So if they were to be able to get rid of some of that, I think that their health would likely also improve. Avid reader, William can't even get priority at the Pope's funeral. Did you see him in the nosebleeds? No. Y'all are so sharp. I didn't watch the Pope's funeral. I hate to say this, but I don't care about the Pope. I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't care about none of that stuff whatsoever. That is part of me protecting my peace. All those politicians and stuff. There's gonna be all the stories around. I don't want to see none of that. But no, did they have him in the nose? Please. I know he was mad. Oh my gosh, I gotta see it now. Now I'm gonna go Google that after this. Thank you, avid reader. Sharon Augustine, welcome to the chat. Happy Sunday. Hope you're doing well, hun. Yeah, we're just, we're kind of having a go here, but the topic initially and what we're weaving through all of our conversation here are the children. It's important, I think, especially for the kids, to have a little bit more normalcy than they have now. I've never ever commented on their kids before, but I think in the context of this conversation, it's kind of important to highlight some of the things that we're seeing. And I think that one of the things that we're seeing is just the negativity that could trickle down into these children's core memories and have a negative impact on them growing up. I don't profess to know how they're being raised. I don't have any comment on parenting. I don't have any comment on the children themselves. All I'm saying is kids are very susceptible to their environment. They absorb everything around them. They see and perceive a lot more than we give them credit for, especially in their young age. You might be tempted to think your 2-year-old or your 3-year-old doesn't know anything. They don't know what's all going on. So you're just cussing up a storm around them, or you're just, doing whatever around them. They know what's all going on. Trust me, they might not be able to articulate that to you. They might not be able to say, hey, don't do that. But they know, and they can feel, and they can sense, and they're very perceptive and very intelligent, much more so than we give them credit for. So, it's important really to try to have a perspective of the kids are seeing this, please don't do that. And I think more than anything, I feel sorry in that they don't see it that way. The people that write these terrible articles and the people that are just like itching for the kids to grow up so they can abuse them. Come on, Barbara Long, thank you for the chat. A lot of British citizens are coming to America, and since the Queen died, they're discovering barbecue, biscuits, and sausage gravy and ranch dressing. Yes. I think it's the first time that they're tasting seasoned food. I think that the first time Harry tasted that roast chicken, he was like, my goodness, is this how chicken tastes? I've seen a lot of British cuisine, and again, no offense to the British, no offense to anyone. This isn't a personal attack, but the seasonings, man, they just don't be seasoning over there. They just do not be seasoning over there the way that they should. The way that we hope them to do, because they have access. You have turmeric in your country, okay? You have turmeric, you have paprika, you have all the seasonings that everyone else has. You have peppercorns, use them, please, for the love of goodness. Yeah, they're definitely coming over. I think they're also just curious, people. I can imagine how tired they are of this monarchy. We get all these statistics about how good the monarchy is and how much tourism the monarchy brings in and the benefits of that. But I feel like those polls are very much skewed. I feel like it's a lot of propaganda. It's a lot of nationalist propaganda to say that the royal family brings in a lot of tourists, because think about the royal family as they are right now. You're telling me people are coming to see Charles and Camilla? You're telling me Charles and Camilla are a main draw for people? Even William and Kate, yeah, they're, a little bit younger, millennials, but you're telling me that people are coming in for them because of them? How? Explain to me the correlation between Charles and Camilla, William and Kate, and then people wanting to come to the country as a result of them existing. It's much more plausible that people are coming to the country for the historical aspects of the country. They're not going to Windsor Castle because Charles and Camilla are associated with that. They're not going to the palaces because William and Kate live there. They're going because it's history. And people love history. People love museums. People love learning about other cultures. They love all of those things. That's why they come. People are coming to see Big Ben. They're coming to see the British Museum, which is really the African Museum, if you're being completely honest with yourselves. They're coming to see the artifacts that y'all stole and refused to give back to the people you stole them from, if you're being honest with yourselves. Paul, the British people will turn on Charles and William because of lack of food and heat that America has. I feel like they have already done that. There's a lot of outcry. You see groups like the Republic, and there's a lot of outcry. It's gotten impossible to sustain. the cost of living crisis after Pandy has really hit people very hard. The inflation has hit people very hard. It's unsustainable to be giving your money to some random people because God said that they're better than you. It's unsustainable for a lot of people at this point. Previous to this, yeah, they were complaining, but these days it's life and death in a lot of these cases. It's the difference between eating food or getting your medication, you know? Every country has its issues. Every country has its poverty. America is not necessarily a great country for that as far as like feeding and clothing their homeless. We have a very significant problem, but we're not paying money to a person who says we have to pay them money because God said that they're better than us. We pay taxes for our streets to look good and our firefighters to be able to put out fires when our homes burn down and our police to, well, they're supposed to keep us safe. Unfortunately, that's not the case in many occasions, but the on its surface and what they're supposed to do is respond to burglary calls and respond to man down calls and provide that first layer of help when there's an emergency. That's what we pay taxes for, not because God told us or God told you that you're better than us and therefore we owe you some money. And you don't do anything, mind you. The monarchy doesn't do anything. We're giving you money to exist. You're not putting out any fires. You're not responding to calls of help. You're not a public servant in the way that a firefighter or a police officer or even a teacher is. You're not teaching children in classrooms and preparing them for life. You're not doing anything useful for anyone. You're walking around telling us that God told you that you're better than us and therefore we owe you money for your existence and being better. We owe you money by that alone. We owe you money. Yeah, no. That's the part that I failed to understand. It's like, okay, I would understand if the royals actually did something. And a lot of people argue that showing up and waving is doing something, but it's not. Showing up and waving is not doing something. I'm talking about doing something. Show up, wave, and then teach a class on pottery or something. You know what I mean? Like show up, wave, and then teach us how to garden, teach us how to fish, teach us how to paint, teach us how to, put something together. I don't know, do something. Showing up and waving is not a thing that requires me to give you money for as a taxpayer. In my humble opinion, that is. There's the Commonwealth is pulling away from them by being independent. I think so. I think that's very accurate. I think that the Commonwealth is just tired. Again, these are unprecedented times. We're in a very difficult position globally, and I don't know how they can sustain this model of giving them a raise, millions and millions of pounds raise every couple of years just to keep up with inflation, but nobody else's job gets to do that. Nobody else gets millions of pounds raise, or I guess adjusted for their own salaries, thousands of pounds of a raise every year or two, every couple of years to adjust for inflation. I think they're driving very much closer to the point where not only they can't financially sustain it, but just economically and socially speaking, they're going to see that this is just not worth it at all. Avid reader, thanks for the super sticker, hon. I really appreciate that. But if it were me, I would voluntarily disband the monarchy. If I were William, and he's close, William is so close. He's already said, "All but I'm done with the monarchy." You know what I mean? He has said it himself. He is almost done with the monarchy. So if I were him, I would do something radical. I would do something radical. I would surprise everybody and disband the monarchy myself. Not in a way that strips me of all of my power. I would still very much be the head of parliament and keep the military head titles and stuff like that. But as far as like the Commonwealth and as far as like making people give me their money to exist, I would do away with that. I would say, look, I know you guys support me. I know you guys love us and love our family. And I would really appreciate the continued love and support as your head of state. I will maintain that. But you no longer have to pay me money for being a white guy that whose great ancestors once enslaved you. I think that that would actually turn things around for William. You know, I think that that would actually turn things around and make his image and his reputation completely, if not completely, but very significantly restored in a lot of different eyes, especially in the Commonwealth. Tiana, welcome to the chat. Happy Sunday, hon. Willie will be the head of state. Willie will be the head of state of 15 of the 56 Commonwealth countries. I can only imagine the 15 countries will be having parliamentary debates and calling for general elections to dump him. They don't want him around. They really just have run out of that goodwill. And I agree with you 100%. They'll be having the conversations that Barbados has. They'll be having the conversations that Jamaica had. They'll be having those conversations everywhere by the time William gets ready to ascend, because he's just a very lackluster individual in general. And I think for the most part, if William had any sense at all, he would take it upon himself to disband the monarchy. Again, not all aspects, just some of the aspects that really stick in the craw of people and the Commonwealth. It really sticks in their craw that you have to pay these people just for existing. It really sticks in their craw that you can continue to tell people that you're better than them. Meanwhile, they can see with their own two eyes that you're not. They can literally see you and hear you. They've listened to what you have to say, and they can conclude with no doubt that you are no way, shape, or form better than them. In fact, if you weren't a royal, you would be a sub-average, below average. You have a very below average IQ, very below average intelligence, very below average capabilities. You're very below average. There's so many things that you cannot do that the normal person can do. Stand up straight, for example. I haven't seen you do that yet. You hunchback gargoyle. There's just a lot of things that they're lacking. And, to keep up that facade of we're better is just, it's an insult. I think to normal human sensibilities. It's just an insult to say that you're better than anybody. You're not. These aren't the ancient times. We can see you very clearly, and the internet says it all. Your words say it all. And again, I feel like either Kate or William can take this initiative and really turn things around. And I think that they're, not just their kids, but like all the children around them, everyone that's growing up in this royal atmosphere will be better off that way too. Because it's not fair to subject them to this. It's not fair that they are subjected unduly because of their parents. I think every child should have the option of opting into the monarchy or opting out. They shouldn't be placed automatically into these positions that they might not be able to fulfill or might not have any inclination towards or desire to be a part of. The kids should just have their own say. They should be autonomous until they're like 18, and then ask them, hey man, do you want to take on some roles? Do you want to be part of this? No, okay, cool. Like, that should be the thing, so that they're not pigeonholed into these positions. And then when they don't want to be part of it, they get blackballed and ostracized, and the pylon is just infinite and endless, like we see with Harry and Meghan. Children should have the option to opt in or opt out of the monarchy. it's just weird to me that generation after generation, they continue to see how harsh kids are treated in the royal family. I gave the example of Beatrice and Eugenie before. They were treated very poorly by the press, and then still expected to grow up and do royal duties. I don't think that's right at all. And if they had any sense, they would ask community members, real community members, not the royal rota, not their the racist people in their circles and the groups that they hang out with. No, go to the streets, take to the streets, ask the people what's all going on. And yeah, they're going to tell you they don't want a monarchy, but you don't have to completely eliminate that. You can just get the real information on hand and then use that qualitative analysis and feedback to develop a plan of action forward. You bulldozing the monarchy, just continuing to just steamroll everybody with your ideologies and, the necessity for the monarchy is not a good idea. And it's not sustainable. So I think that Meghan earning the title of America's Mom is going to be something very long lasting. She has a very long career ahead of her. She has a very interesting perspective, a unique dynamic. It's going to be very, very fun to see her kind of, develop into, I feel like, a little bit of a Martha Stewart character. She's already in her Martha Stewart bag. Martha Stewart made her one pot pasta. She did everything right, and leaving. Her and Harry have done everything right in developing their own pathway and forging their own path ahead. And yeah, her kids growing up have all the autonomy that I think all children deserve, including the royal children. The royal children deserve protection. They deserve autonomy. They deserve a choice. So this is a wonderful, wonderful sight to see. I'm going to continue to follow her Instagram, continue to see what she has in store for us. I agree, MCD, they are definitely outdated and need to change with the times. It's just, what are they going to do? Just continue like this forever? No. But the way Harry and Meghan are doing things, very, very inspirational, very motivational. And I love this for them. I love this for them so much, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. I'm going to go see Sinners with some of my girlfriends in a little bit. So I'm going to get ready for that. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Sunday yourself. Whatever it is that you're doing tonight, please be safe. Please be careful. And always remember to be kind. Thank you so much for joining me. Shout out to Avid Reader, everybody who joined our chat. Thank you so much for making it pop as always. Have a wonderful rest of your night, guys. Bye for now.